Sagittarius New Moon, how are we doing? Welcome. Okay, we're gonna get right to it. I'm doing this on the 18th because the next 4 days are like super crucial in terms of astrology. And I just think I could give a little bit of a heads up. I definitely want to give the heads up, and the pre-message of all of this is like the astrology is a little fugly with this new moon. In certain ways, kind of like how I think a lot of us weren't really super, maybe like you weren't super prepared for Sagittarius season, or maybe you really only got the terrorism of Sagittarius season for whatever it's worth. Doesn't really matter. But I am doing this on the 18th. The new moon is on the 20th, 21st. I think this weekend's really important. I think, you know, we have the holidays next week, which is for a lot of us, similar themes that we were talking about around the Scorpio new moon, which is like, you know, as you rebrush with, you know, people, places, things that you are, you know, the society that the third dimensional matrix has you connected to, you just might want to be aware. You might really want to be like segment intending. And so my goal with this is actually to be really helpful. Like I said, I don't always do every transitory like movement that's happening. I don't always like do a little bust down movie, but I will say for me and for my husband, one of the things that is coming back around at this time that this new moon really can help you like do an alignment check with is, since 2020, there was an opportunity for those of us who like chose the conscious ascension route, like from 2020 to like really map out the decade in and of itself. So this is kind of like by year 5, the halfway check. And so a lot of that themes of those things are coming through. So again, it's kind of like not the manifestation of like, maybe even things that like, oh, I really want based on the context that I'm in now, but there's a lot of things that are like long withheld that I feel like I'm getting the gift of being on alignment 2 and 4. And I really didn't even have to know the specifics of where, when, what, how, and why it was coming. It's just because of the intentionality of like setting myself on a path and being able to do that. So I'm just going to do the right away. We're just going to get some off the top download messages about this Sagittarius new moon. One of the biggest things I will really say though is like really emphasize and utilize specifically for this week, give and allot yourself much more space and time, 213, in the places, in the receptacles that you feel like you're most safe. Just because we're still in the air. It's not even like it's not like the astrology is like bringing out like a new acute volatility. It is the same volatility that I think the year of the snake has excavated in everyone. It's just like fears and fear-based behaviors running sort of rampant because of like the push from the divine for them to be released at this time. And so when that's kind of hitting a culmination, like it's really important to understand that like everyone is their trajectory at this time, their, you know, awareness of self, all of those things are completely personal. And so this is definitely one of those times. I think Sagittarius like does this very well. That's just like, if you're a mass Sagittarius, like it's okay, babe. Like they have that general detached awareness where it's like, we don't need a bad time. We don't need like, you know what I mean? And so there's ways where it's like, you know, allotting the space. This is also one of those times where I could also like give you the PSA. It's like, it would be a good time to like use your consciousness and clock it to be able to like communicate to others who don't ever really think they need more space than they do, to like deal with themselves. Like you can also usher that in and allot that and support that awareness in others, where it's just like we might be thinking still at the end of 2025 that we're more capable of like navigating life, dealing with others, you know, and holding our own selves. And maybe at this time like that, I just want to prepare you that some of the things that like, it's not even about them being triggered, the things that again just have always belonged and been in your own possession essentially, in terms of just like history, experience, patterning, whatever it may be. At this time, it is like so pivotal that this new moon like really helps you excavate it. So there's a lot of that rising energy. So again, a great weekend to stay still in the trap, a great weekend to do a lot of things. One of the things that I'm coming on for is because I feel like a lot of 2025 for me, I think I did a really excellent job in the archive explaining, was like, I'm doing amazing. Things have completely sunk. In fact, I'm not even really someone where it's like, because I'm like only really moved with alignment, there's not a lot of opportunities that I take that I don't get, because I don't really seek out opportunities that aren't for me. So there's not really, and then people also look at me like, oh, it didn't even look like you had to try for this. Like, right, that's another part of the whole alignment thing. So a lot of 2025 was like, all of the things that I was trying to initiate were done, successful. Yeah, you did what you needed to do. I don't have to over explain. I'm getting out of my overthinking brain, right? But I did give the disclaimer that like, while I'm building this business and making these resources that, again, at a much later date, people are gonna be like, good for this CEO for already being like, she didn't even worry about responding to a set of people in a now moment about what Tethered Studios is, what our philosophy is, what kind of information would you want a CEO of any big media conglomerate to have access on, and a very one-on-one level. That's what this archive really is. But I think people really respect my like kind of like zooming through. It's like, did I really need to wait for a response or some feedback from any one particular person about the things that I publish here? No, because they actually have to do with the framework of what we're building here. And so, like I said, this is not what Tethered Studios is. This is actually just like me doing the part of like any company that I've ever joined on. We have to build out what the ethos is. This is like ethos building, right? Ethos building. But I think the best way to do that in an era of, artificially modified everything, where there's like a complete disconnection from source, it's very difficult to figure out what's an effective production method in terms of like what kind of technology we're going to do to convey this messaging that's very not original. Like, to give an ethos for companies, like any CEO entrepreneur has to do that. But the way that I approached it was like, okay, well, what actually makes it kind is like I can utilize maybe the ways where, Saturn and my second house are being really restricted in terms of like letting the old world collapse within me, so that I can prop up this new natural birth code, which is like all abundant. One of the things that I can do is like document this kind of stuff, like the harder filler stuff that's like, it's not actually even because this constant messaging is like what brings anything in particularly. These are just resources that, again, are available. You ever join a company where it's like, they like are training you up, and some things that would have really helped you is like, man, if they would have like given me the employee handbook, that would have been great. This is in a lot of ways me doing an employee handbook that like is over time. And I always really want to put an emphasis on like making sure that like as a CEO of TSTU, and with the programming that I run, like I said, because TSTU is going to go like beyond just like my personal artwork and the programs that I'm doing, and it's like moving into a programmatic, like very, in the near future. And so, especially when we get into like the brick and mortar, it's like definitely important for me to have things like this. Because again, like I said, I'm a very literary individual. So for me, it's always been about like anyone who I want to be a part of this vision, I want to make sure that they have non-stop, like pretty much just like an inexhaustible amount of resources about pretty much anything you could ask. Because I'm not a regular CEO, I'm a cool CEO, but it's also like this isn't about a job and filling a need. There's no one, the Tethered Studios doesn't have a specific thing that the earth needs it to do. It's totally just like an auric field, like a code that now exists and can, ignite and initiate certain changes. And that's pretty much like in the image of what I studied my own energetic signature to be, being a child of Uranus, right? So that sort of lightning strike moment where it's like tower moment, like that's kind of like in the ethos here. So just some like prereq in case you're wondering like why do you keep doing this? And it's like, it's like, this is literally just my archive, where it's like when it's time to like write down like aspects of like what I'm doing. This is like a back end look at like what my processing and thinking is, and over time it became formulaic to where people understand as well. Because again, I'm very big on public record. I feel like anyone who does anything that involves the consciousness of other people should have a pretty public record in terms of what they're doing. This has nothing to do with extroversion. It just actually has to do with like accountability. So that's a big part of that. But anyways, we're going to talk about how the Sagittarius New Moon, it's like the communication of the union. I think the other thing, like I said, that kind of longer tangent was that I was like, you're seeing me be called because of just like the date time that it was, that I was always going to be like at this point in development for things like a career aspect. You're watching me have to do that. And the only thing I really hold in this archive is like how feasible that's going to be given the wounding and trauma. So the echelon of healing that I've gone on has also helped me do the job more effectively, although I've done this exact same job since 2023 or 2022, excuse me, in terms of like the spiritual messaging, let's just say with that, like right with the Virgo channel and Virgo Saint channel and the Holy Cow. But now, what I feel like would be evident over time, not even that's something that I like even have to think about. Again, this is just press record, do the thing. But one of the things that I think would be like very notable is the healing journey, like the journey in terms of like, okay, I'm a lot more full spectrum. I'm not as, deeply enmeshed in my own programming and patterning to where like I'm really misreading like how effective I am in certain ways. So really grateful for the integrity, really grateful for an overview. But for the next 4 days, like I said, it's like we're going into the winter solstice on the 21st, which is like the best time. But one of the biggest things about the winter solstice is just like being deeply, deeply, deeply in the heart of the womb. And I kind of want to talk about this messaging and just like what would be really great is like to be, I'm not even suggesting that you be to yourself. I just don't want you to put an emphasis that there's anything to go do. At this time, it's like deeply alignment based. And so you would probably know like what your plans are for the holiday season. You would probably know where you are, who you work with, what you're connected to. You would know all those things. And so for many of you, like I said, it's a lot of different echelons. But again, I just want to make sure with this messaging that we account for the amount of fears that are actually being like purged up and out of you. Because I think for me and Dennis yesterday, we went through a really, actually when I was kind of talking to you guys about like, just in general, the like overview for the year of the horse and just like the, maybe even a little bit of blunt horse trauma to the head about going from a year of the snake where you're like, so emphasized on, I think the whole point, like I said, the year of the snake is not even about shedding. That's like one thing a snake does. But the real reality of the snake is like they are able to survive with no arms, no legs, and just slithering. Like, so it's a very vulnerable animal. And why are they able to stay alive? It's because of their awareness of themselves. Like snakes are aware that it's like, well, I don't have these big, like someone could just step on me and end it, or, you know, any predator could come try to get me. But one of the things that they're aware of is like, well, I know where my venom is stored. I know what I can do. I do know these sort of secret niche things that only I have, like my ability to shed a new skin and become a new, and like kind of release, you know, old limitations, old travels, old things that I've traversed in my own walk, you know. So to go from the year of the snake to the horse, it's like so strategically designed. It's like sort of ancient calendar of like the archetypes within, you know, Chinese astrology. But again, a large part of that is like you're going from a year where it was like about you really learning about who you are intrinsically into a year that is about completely the horsepower, like again, the ability to be like, so you want to take that self-awareness from the year of the snake, which again, a lot of people talk about the sensations you might feel, which is like anything that was deeply shed, anything that was really lost in this year, or anything that continued to come up, any fear-based behavior. They're really, the biggest thing is that they bring you back to an awareness of who you are. So that being said, there could be infinite people at infinite journeys of the self-awareness, self-knowledge arc. You know, the worst end of this is just like the population is just like has built a life off of like never knowing who they really are. Very plausible in the third dimensional like paradigm that we've all constructed. And then it's also very possible that, you know, you could find the other end of the spectrum where it's like people are very much deeply liberated at this time because like having the opportunity to just really learn about themselves. Like a lot of people were really forced to like, again, if we talk about slavery concepts, the worst part is that it takes up your space and time to learn about yourself. Because the idea with slavery is that it's so labor intensive, it's so spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally taxing and traumatic and abrupt in terms of the system and the ecosystem of the human body, that you spend more time learning about other than you do about your own self. And so it's just like really, those are all the thematics for 12 minutes. But let's go ahead and see. Yeah, Sagittarius New Moon. I'm very excited. I have some big plans with Sagittarius New Moon, so it's like exciting. Okay. So Sagittarius full moon or new moon starts off with the Queen of Wands, which is very Sagittarian. One of the things that I literally just heard is like, my milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. It's like funny. That might be the frequency for you all with the Sagittarian new moon. One of the things that I think that I was kind of telling you is like, this is a very stay still in the trap, because I think with the Sagittarius new moon, you don't realize, if I couldn't get the PSA out to like do less and really just like don't like mastering the ability to realize like it's a co-creative experience, like everything that you are doing, like you're responsible to and you're responsible for. So like where you do and don't invest your time, space, and energy is setting off all the chain reactions of whatever. But also at the same time, the idea is it's like you when it comes to what you want to create, the universe, especially the Sagittarius moon, wants you to think about it as if you were the queen of the creative kingdom and you are just sitting here. So it's like the idea here is that it's a very receptive principle, and it makes sense because we're having the Sagittarius moon in the divine feminine season, like I said, like inside of the cosmic womb. But I do feel like this Sagittarius full moon or new moon, if you were wondering why, because I feel like I felt like this is like I really wanted to do the masculine thing and really like you know, when it comes to the holidays, it's like, oh, I really wanted to like make what it is that I'm doing, or you know what I mean, like I really wanted to like do this or do that. And I think one of the things that's actually more accurate to be realistic with you, is to allow. So I just feel like I said, this Sag New Moon, there's going to be a lot of, like, just off top, it's a lot of, to me at a spiritual level, in terms of a ranking level, it's a lot of lower ranking individuals in terms of their conscious ascension. So it's a lot of people who it's like you were more conscious than them in one aspect or another, and Spirit wants to allow you to properly witness that by being seated and attracting it. And so it's the same amount of creation. So you are being asked at the Sagittarius Moon to like think about what you want to create, but then don't take the route of creating it by you assuming that the only components to creating that would just be yourself. This is definitely an energy of like, let the intuition, the emotional capacity of it. This is like, these are the best things though, because this is the most attractive create. Like I said, if you're really in alignment with the Sagittarius Moon, you really feel your most attractive. You would have been 2025 in terms of health and wellness was 100% the year, especially when you're going through a year of intense shedding. It's extremely important to really connect to your physical vessel. Okay, this was definitely the year that everyone's gonna get the wake-up call. I really feel sorry for you because your health, it is what it is. But it's living. It's something that you have to really like invest into. You have to. It doesn't go without you. You know what I mean? And so, one of the things that I really, really wanted people to focus on is like having the revolution within this year, where like really revolutionizing like your regime. Like, what do you really do? Because let me just tell you, the astrology stack up in terms of like the years, they actually just get more defeating if you don't activate. So that's where a lot of these sort of Eastern philosophies around astrology really go. It's like the mastery of one concept is contingent upon whether or not you even can enter the gates of what the knowledge and then therefore the subsequent journey to mastery for the next phase would be. So again, when we talk about like approaching like a year of the horse, it's gonna like really be blunt force trauma, because you understand the horse is the most muscular, most athletic, most capable. Like we used to just put giant carts, mobiles, to the backs of horses, and they're just going, and there's no water, there's no break, there's no nothing. And so, like I said, I think for all of us, 2025 really asked you, can you look at the rest of this decade, the next 5 years, and ask yourself how much energy, how much ability you're actually going to need in order to do what's going to be required, because the same collapse is going to be happening. So we're still going to be seeing the actual ripples of the like falls of a third dimensional system. The worst part about that is you are nowhere, like, again, we're not off the point. We talk about these global climate crisis. We talk about these, we're still kind of like on timers of just like waiting for certain aspects of society to reach a catalyst of some sort. So while we sit like sitting ducks on that, ask yourself, if a hurricane comes, if an earthquake comes, if a, climate event happens, if there's some sort of human incited issue, these are things that many of you will continue to be awoken up by. As a lifelong journey, we will all continue to face these aspects of ourselves. But again, I feel like the Sagittarius New Moon is what really big information is like, to know you're in alignment with it, you have to be in your most attractive frequency, okay? Because it's actually that magnetism that has allowed God to move through you to also speak to the intuition and the emotions of others. Now, the thing that I also feel with the Sagittarius New Moon is like someone's ability to like come up to you and be like, actually, like, this is what I'm saying. It's like one thing I love about my job right now that I have, just like working with other people and photographers, is like, I just like, everybody to me is like, in this economy, you're grown and you're an adult. Like, what? And so a lot of the things that I really love about the people that I work with is that when they offer or submit something to me about me, just based on like their emotional disposition and how they perceive what they're experiencing for me, and say it's something of like a positive nature, like they're like letting me know, like, Alexis, like, it's just like really like your vibe. I would do this with you. I would go. It's a type of thing that I feel like this Sag New Moon is trying to bring to you, where it's like, oh wow, that's even more valuable, because we know in this day and age people don't have it to spare necessarily. Like they're not just, it's not like everybody's walking around like give it out, energetic, whatever to other people. And so when that happens, it really brings me back to like, that's what I'm saying. It's like at this point, the whole rigorousness of 2025 was not for you to like approach the rigorousness with continued resistance, because the real reason for that is not a judgment. The real reason is like the only thing achieved from many people at this time through 2025 would just be resisting. So that's not a really great achievement, because there's like many people at this time are looking back at the year that they've had, and it's like, I didn't get anything done. And that's like beyond, I don't know how to even explain how like that can't be like the reality for like long-term health and wellness. But also, you know, the worst part of the end of year wrap, the New Year's resolution aspect of the year that people don't really love and they don't buy into, the reason why people continue to like, you know, I don't really reset in the way, is because of the weight of not realizing like whatever catalyst in a year comes to you is actually meant for you to fulfill what it's bringing to you, rather than, again, the time and the effort to resist that. Like, you are being asked to evolve and become better than what you were yesterday, and that's the requirement for all people. So anyways, those are the things that, again, this moon is like really like allowing and like supporting us to understand. But again, your magnetism is going to be huge. Now, this is the other thing, is like it's just what the level is. So you're just dealing with your own magnetic ability. So for the Queen of Wands in all of us, right, which is your most attractive, most creative, the Queen of Wands really decides like who and what it is that we are going to be building, what we're going to bring into form. You're really doing all of that. It looks like the things that really are able to be guided to the vision, because it's like every time you have an idea of a world you want to build, immediately like components start attracting as soon as you speak out or verbalize or, you know, legitimize like the idea. And so it's like the new moon is like really bringing you all these parts that are a part of that. Now, the new idea can be a bad idea. Like I said, many people spend their creative abilities creating chaos, creating like towers, creating like whatever, okay? When you do that, that's also why at the same time, the holidays can also reflect a time where it's like, you can be someone who feels like, yes, maybe like the holidays, the things that are being attracted to me, the people that I'm going to be around might be just like triggers. It might just be like painful. It might be like whatever, right? And it would all of that information actually brings you back to the root, the sourcing of why those experiences would be assembling around the queen here, right? So that's what I just want to say. It's like, for me, I'll just use it as an example. On the new moon, like I have my company party, right? And there's so many different people that like have different feelings about like how like my job serves them as an individual or whatever, right? But I can almost guarantee you that, you know, one thing that has become very evident is that like no two people have the exact same experience, even though we're like work the same job and we have the same role, right? So a lot of the things, especially when you work in like artist fields, like I think you can, because it's so energetically sensitive and attuned, it's like you can really tell that the way that life is turning out for you is very indicative of like what the source is. And so, like I said, when I get into the job and it's like, you girls are going through a hard time, you're doing this and this and that, you know, one thing that it does immediately bring me back to is like, right, even conflict, like those types of narratives, like people have to really wake up at this time and realize it's like, if every single one of your partnerships and relationships are contentious, meaning it's like strain, it's difficult, it's dis-ease, that would be the Queen of Wands. That would be the extension of the nebula of the world you're creating. So again, I don't think that this is so much as a moon where like a lot can be achieved. It's definitely much more of a checkpoint frequency. It's definitely much more of a like, you're going to get a lot of clarity on your alignment, because I just have a feeling the way what comes to you and is available to this queen exposes what the queen is really on, exposes like what you always create. That's like just a huge part of the Sagittarius new moon. I also think that's going to be really liberating, because again, when we talk about how God really wanted to restructure the dynamics of relatedness amongst the human population within this global context right now, a lot of that can be really helpful. So like when we get more, I also feel like the Sagittarian thing is doing the Sagittarian thing. So it's like you might be around, like I said, the holidays, you're going to be around people unless you're not. But even people like to be around. So even when you go out right now, like people are more focused on like togetherness and whatnot. So when you're doing that, I think it might be really helpful, because at this time, I think it's going to be the general consensus, like everyone's Queen of Wands is going to be attracting something to help build out the world they create within. Many people can like suppress, hide, whatever the real, you know, some people can be like, oh, I'm only here to do positivity and serve the planet. But like the reality of the world they create, like what the inputs are, like not that at all. You're going to see based on like, again, what gets attracted to them at this time. And what gets attracted to them is going to really show you what's really there. I think that was a lot of, like last night I had a really clarifying moment, because I was like closing late with my coworkers. And like I said, I have a very, like my job is very finicky, because it's very, very sensitive to like what energy you're emitting. And specifically if you're like in a studio of any kind, but like the energy you emit is like all that's really happening. It's like a vibe, it's a completely creative space. But even for me, I think a lot of my coworkers are just like looking at how like even me closing a shop, or even me, like my attitude and being aligned to my job, like especially because I'm very aligned for it. It has nothing to do with like a capitalist structure. Like I'm supposed to be at this phase right now doing what I'm doing for a lot of different reasons. But I think yesterday I had a lot of my coworkers like really like looking at me, like staring at me and just being like, wow, like I'm seeing how like, because it could be like, you know, someone on the staff that everybody knows and maybe is not always like super open or isn't always super chatty, but then it's like, oh, like I saw Alexis, like you're like super like chill with that person, or you're like so again, I think yesterday a lot of people were able to see like based on who, like, and this is like what I'm saying, it's like based on who's coming to you, they can understand what the nature is. Because in my job I also don't have a ton of time to like speak on like learning about people's personal life is like kind of like something I don't really have any time for, because it's my job's like one of those times where there's not really downtime. So a lot of people are having to rely on learning about others in my job experience through like how things turn out for them. So like you kind of know who to like who's not vibing with you, or like who's not really, because like if they're all you get what I'm saying, like if they're, and it's just like you're really gonna understand, it's like gonna bring things back to the source energy. So like that's the 25-minute download about like this is what will be happening. It's like just expect, no matter who you are, it's like on the 21st, expect that like the world you created for yourself, which again, mind you, this would also, I really get like the last 5 years, like so the world you've been creating since the 2020s, like, which again, most people are unconscious that there was even an assignment to do that. And so many people have done like truly nothing. They're not prepared that like a collapse is certain, because there's not only a connection with God could like give you the pulse of that. There are so many predictive institutions and like spaces that you can tap into that can help you have a read on like what themes evolution will be coming to as a collective. But again, you know, a strong connection to the creator prime source, not a religious aspect, but like actually to God, right? Like we can't be more connected to Jesus Christ than we are to God. Like right, this is just the son of the creative force. So it's all of those things at this time, but a strong connection with God is like the most important thing. But the other thing that's like really also going to be on display, I'll just also say, is like, you know, a lot of people be like, oh, I have this great relationship with God, and yet they have no idea what to make of their lives. And that's like the first indicator that you have zero connection with God, because there's like always something to be like we have to, again, the holidays are my favorite because they talk about the sacredness of the divine child. Okay, so when any living organism on this planet comes into being, there is a function, there is a purpose, there is a role, right? There is a natural pulse and a spiritedness that they are being directed towards, and they were designed to create. It's like winding up a toy soldier and like how it marches, right? So to still be in a place where, you know, the third dimensional paradigm, late stage capitalism, these things like have you thinking that like I feel like that false sense of security, because this is also even like, it was never about survival. It's never been about the cars, the clothes, the house. It's never been about any of those things, right? In terms of the reality of like what this planet really is. But it can also, the attainment of certain things in the third dimensional matrix system can also make a lot of people, one, move into a very judgment-based rhetoric, right? So it's like you always look to find the critiques or the judgments of other people around you, likely because in the system that you follow, it's telling you haves and have-nots. So like if you've got the foreign car, if you have the 401k, if you have this house, that would determine that you have some level. It's like you trust that, oh, I'm checked off, right? I'm doing good. And I think that's the thing where the Sag New Moon might really confuse you, because don't forget Sagittarius is like the philosophizing of God, like the actual understanding of like higher knowledge. And so a lot of people at this time, again, it could be like a very sobering type of like experience in terms of like the holidays, because to be pitted or to be provided with the awareness that like there's like this completely uncharted realm that's like actually the only realm that even matters. Like there's this entire realm of your spirit that you've never done any work on, and that's actually what you were supposed to be being graded on like the entirety of your life. Again, we talk about the ways that affects consciousness. So all of those things can be happening in the Sag New Moon. Let's keep seeing. So what's crossing this queen? Whoa, ski. This is like two queens. This is like crazy frequencies. The other thing I will definitely say about the Sagittarius New Moon is it's going to really, the divine, the feminine frequency within the planet is like super important at this time. Again, I think it's just because we are in the most like, we are going into like a very feminine, we're in divine feminine season, the 6 months of the year that are like, for where I am, you know, it's the part of the year that is like everything is decaying, it's not growing, it's like dying off and getting colder, right? But yeah, I mean, this is just huge. I think there's also kind of a big coronation. I think there's like a very big surprise. It's almost like, you know, when someone is like, it's like a party that maybe like this super hostess was already gonna do, but it also just gets like kind of assembled. Like I kind of just feel like the vibe is like, no, just wait and watch. Just like wait and watch how this gets assembled. Like you don't really have to do too much about how this gets assembled, because how well, so what comes and gets attracted to you based on what you want to create has everything to do with the truth you live in, right? How clearly you see what is questioned, quote unquote, for you, right? Four of Wands. So I think at this time, for me, one of the best things is that I came through was like, I had a lot of fears all 2025. My biggest fear was that like, I'm not actually, well, one of my ancestral traumas is like being attracted to things that are really bad for you. And so one of the things that I've been dealing with simultaneously this year when I was working with my parents and like we were dealing with like how to support, you know, our Black family out of, you know, slavery timelines. And so when we were doing that work together this year, one of the things that I think we all came to a consensus of is like having to deal with, like for our family, it was like a very big like demonic possession. It's very, very sinister aspect of like desiring or like wanting that which isn't just like toxic, but like damaging to yourself or like others, or like just kind of like inhumane, like desiring like inhumane things, like just like concepts and like lifestyles that are just like not appropriate in certain ways. And so one of the things I really struggled with and kind of felt like I was struggling with even yesterday, like is like a lot of times like trusting that like, you know, because once you start getting into the long-term corrections, like I said, like I do know that like many people will probably look back and regard me for the ways that I, like as a young person, I took advocacy for like healing myself. Like I think one of the things people will know about like young little Alexis is she's very conscious. And because she was very conscious, it was like very easy for me to be like, no, I need to go to this school. And it's because I have to break out of the hood in this way. I have to change my diet because I don't want this long-term health, like these kind of decisions that I made like in youth, which because I'm still considered like in the youth of my life, but I'm making a lot of decisions at this time that are actually about responding to the inequities of my life, you know, in certain ways. And so that's kind of just how I feel. I feel like at this time it's like double queen. It's like I don't know, I can't explain how deafening I think the Sag New Moon really can become, because I just feel like the real queen, the real divine feminine at this time is like the center of attention. And again, what is attracted to you has to do with what you want to create, but what you want to create comes to how clearly you see the truth of yourself. And how clearly you see the truth of yourself would be like, are you in union with yourself? Are all aspects of yourself on board? Higher self, lower self, inner child, you know, divine feminine, divine masculine, like are they actually in union? And so I think the reason this could go a lot of ways with the Sag woman, because if this is what people are being like, if this is what people are being like tested on or like being asked to show up in, it's like really going to be more of like, how well do we do that? Like how well can we do that? And so yeah, it's just, I think that many people really might struggle with the Queen of Wands and struggle with the Queen of Swords if they're coming from toxic paradigms, because if you're in a karmic feminine position, you're in union with shit and you're also attracting stuff, but we're talking about those things that they'll break down versus build you up. They aren't in alignment to you. So you're going to see both of those things. Like I said, I can read through the timeline where it's like you will probably basically be like seeing how all the things you want to create now, if you're in alignment, like if you're on time with me, all the things you want to create kind of just come together because you've gotten so good at being clear about what it is that you want, that even when it's like you're meeting people off top, or even when people think now to like give you a resource to be like, oh, I can help you with this, or I can help you with that, you've already been so clear and so consistent on the vision that you have and who you are and the authenticity that it's like those things actually kind of can assemble. So instead of like having to do everything yourself, you kind of see that like the repurposing or the ways that other things can support you in terms of like bringing the vision all the way here are getting done. So those are great things to know. Let me see what else we got. So we got Death in reverse and the Two of Cups. So ski. Yeah. I also feel like Sag New Moon is a type of energy where it's like it's with Sagittarius in general, once you get into the celestial, so Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, right? So once we get into the uppers, the masters of each element, there's certain things that their wisdom, intellect, and archetype offer that only transcendence can get you. So you have to, so this is kind of like, for anything that you're in right now, it had to go through the first through the 8th house, right? So all the way through Scorpio, because when we've got the Death in reverse and we've got the Two of Cups, it's like you're now in the Phoenix rising, and I think there are certain aspects of like the divine feminine at this time. Again, this is a lot to do with just like the feminine frequency, and I think the incentive of the Two of Cups being prepared and ready for you was like was waiting. You were going to be locked outside until the transformation was completed, so it's literally like the 21st, the solstice, the new moon, all of these things, the 20th, 21st, it's like you had to go all like the way through the transformation. So you had to die, you had to do the thing 3 nights, you had to do the move the tomb, the resurrection, and then and then after the resurrection comes the Phoenix pipeline, which is like building up your brand again, because it was like, oh Jesus, you're back, oh awkward, and then it's like, what do we do now? So this almost looks like coming through the entirety of that, like with these specifically, I'm looking at partnerships with the things that you partner with, the things that like you equal give and take with. It's like it took like the death, the murder, the breakdown of it, the death to the old, the sitting in the cemetery, the stillness of it. It also took the like spark to life, and then it also took like, once you're like in that space, then you're finally then the cups are like evenly yoked. You get what I'm saying? But it looks like the entirety of that process was going to be determined, like whether or not you actually got to get to the like getting through the death process and then having something like this waiting would have had to do with your feminine. Yes, for all of us. So you would have only been able to, can you stand the rain? Like you would have only been able to stand the rain and being locked outside of that which you want. You would have only been like waiting on that opportunity to take you out of that poverty paradigm, that lack mentality. So that's like really what the physical, like not having what you want. And it's like, it only would come through. And this is where the divine is like very strategic. This is where I also try to tell people, it's like, it's important to understand that no human can really tell you, it's like a connection with God is really important, because there are aspects of your story or elements of the hero's journey that you're always going to find yourself on, that sometimes require a certain type of hero in order to even have certain magical recovery processes even go. So this is where I'm also saying, it's like the Sag New Moon, it's like it could also on the lower frequency, if you're not, the feminine is still in a karmic timeline of any sort, this is like a forced death for the Two of Cups. It's like kind of crazy type of frequency. Let's keep going, we'll see. Yeah, it's huge. Recent past, the Wheel of Fortune, and the Knight of Swords. I think this is a big part of it too. It's like, you know, at this point in the year, for everyone, like I said, it's available for you consciousness wise in terms of what would be your personal Wheel of Fortune. I do, however, feel like as soon as you knew the wheel was turning for you, it was like this is like, because it's like, you know, 2025 is definitely like the horses are still like, I'm ready. And as soon as that gate drops and they're ready to blast forward, this is that. So it looks like that's how I feel. It's like, it looks like in the past you like were free to go to the new timeline, right? You're like gunning right to that, to the truth of that, bringing you to the present day where it's like, yeah, I just feel like we've had that where you know what's really trying to, you know what sees the truth of your value, you know what sees the truth of like the wheel that you're on, the cycle that you're on, the abundance that you possess. And it's like, wow, ski. So crowning this is the Five of Swords, and this has been huge for all of Sag season for me. I'm gonna be honest, because again, this is that kind of conversation that I brought it back to. Is like this year's, again, part of the reason why I do the education I do is like there are every day has an assignment. You know, there's always something to really be building. I mean, God is like, you can always work on yourself. And so I think the worst part of this year, I think the people that might leave this year really with a lot more devastation than they're probably going to be able to comprehend, would be the Five of Swords. Like, it's spending the year really thinking that it's about like win loses. Like, if I can, like, I mean, it gets that granular. Like, some people in the day, like, the only thing that they can feel successful in would be like how well they felt like they were better than someone else, or like how well they could like cut someone else down, right? Like, and the thing about that is it's not a judgment on like whether you do that. It's an intellectual problem, right? Achieving an ego-based win over someone else is such a small, it doesn't do anything. Like, it doesn't actually have any empirical data that backs it up. So I told my husband this when we were on our healing journey. It's like, the real incentive to healing is that like it's not actually really good for your bag. Like, it's not actually really good for your bag to be like unaware, unconscious, and toxic. Like, because, this is people cutting off work. Like, it looks like working opportunities and being like, nah, this is literally like, I'm not gonna work on myself. And this is the personal work. Eight of Pentacles is like always the place where it's like the Eight of Cups. It's like being so valuable that like even your old sense of achievements you could walk away from and keep going for more, because it's like that much mastery, right? In the Eight of Cups, same with the Eight of Pentacles. It's like the same conversation where it's like, this is where this is, as they say, like, it's like when you reach flow state, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people, because of their, again, if we have fears around doing work on ourselves for whatever reason, that would be the direct reason why we never reach a flow state in terms of like evolution. Because it just looks like, to me, you would have needed to know during Sagittarius season what to cut and what not to cut. And I think this is like a huge heart-based test for the Divine Feminine, because if she did not know that if we're celebrating the child in the holiday season, we're definitely honoring the mother, right? So it's like one of those things where it's like, you have to be in a healthy feminine frequency. You have to be a healthy individual, mind, body, and spirit, to be able to tolerate and not actually cut off your Two of Cups before the situation transformed, because it was actually moving through you. It was moving through like, basically this is kind of that thing where it's like, where we rebalance the patriarchy. It's like, it's going to come. So then the way that it's going to happen is the feminine is going to get tested by God. Okay, feminine, you have the ability to either push the red button and blow all of us up on this planet to get your lick back, or you can realize that you need one another, that even if the pain was caused by the patriarchy, the masculine frequency, even if that was caused by the masculine, you understand yourselves as counterparts instead of enemies. Again, this is where the new moon in Sagittarius also does a lot of that natural expose, a natural pruning, because if you're not actually if you're in a contract and not actually in a mirrored vibrational part, like if this isn't actually your counterpart, that's why you would cut it. But again, I was going through these last few days when I was dealing with, because again, I was getting this problem was the masculine, it's got to purge the substance. There's a lot of fears about like cutting valuable things that you might actually need, right? Five of Swords type of frequency. But it's like, when I was going through it, my heart kept going back to all years. Like, is this being toxic that I'm just like, that I still, care to create a world or support or find a way to nurture even some of these aspects? And it's toxic if it's not something that's on your path and these aren't mirrors ordained by God for you. Yeah, absolutely. So it's always important to ask yourself that question, but it does come down to what you're aligned to. And so when I started realizing like, nope, with Dennis, that's why I kind of told you guys, I've told you that from the start. When I met my husband, it was like, with this person, it has to do with his alignment to me. Because yes, for the average girl, would I suggest that you meet your man on Tinder, he's in a rehab, and you just say, yes, that's good? No, I wouldn't. That's not a good, it's like actually a toxic situation. It's going to be a lot. You may not be able to handle what's required of that very delicate situation. Now, if that person is for you, you would do what I did. And it was deeply connected to what was on my plate at the time. Like I said, I had just lost my best friend to a heroin overdose. So it's like it's going to be exactly like that. But I feel like at this time, if the Queen of Wands was on her, like snip and cut something, you would feel the pain of cutting something or not. This is almost like seeing something and being like, because it's like, if the feminine frequency doesn't, I get it. It's the end of the year. We're like exhausted, maybe. I don't know what people are on, but it's kind of one of those things where it's like, we don't heal to be like, I'm so healed. Like, you really do heal to come into the crystalline Christ consciousness. And Christ consciousness is not being like, oh, you're not up to my standard, I'm separating myself, or, oh, you one red flag and I'm cutting you off. Nope. Christ consciousness is awareness of the sacredness of life. So you should actually be even keeled, whether you have a demon in your face or you have like an angelic frequency in front of you. It really wouldn't matter. You should be able to come from love. And so that's what we're everyone's recommitting to every day. No one is arriving there necessarily. That's like what we're always, you can always be more Christ conscious, you know? And so it just kind of looks like to me like someone who maybe has mastered healing. There could be a lot of feminines who can like master a certain level of healing within themselves, or maybe empowerment, but you're not actually mastering the actual concept here, which is why I go a step further. I don't produce, like, healing is not actually what this is about. For me, it's about unity consciousness. It's about making sure people understand there's no separation, because that's actually the only issue right now. And it looks like if you're in the karmic feminine timeline, you keep wanting to separate. And that you could be like healthy, you could have like third dimensional things can be stable in certain aspects of you. But again, if the issue is that you are still like choosing separate consciousness, which means like you look at the people around you and you actually think they're different from you. You actually find judgments that you don't see. Because again, in the reality of the world, what you say about another person only exposes what you think about yourself, because you can only produce thoughts, emotions, and experiences that are about you. So even if someone came up to you and said, like, I hate you, you're stupid, what you're doing is dumb, that's how they feel about themselves. That's like the catch-22, which is why, especially with people who have really strong self-love, you're not going to be able to go up to them and like criticize them and them not see that like it's a reflection about how you feel about yourself. So just another thing, wrapping December 2025. But again, this would be like not having the capacity, because it's like, because this is that head or heart decision where it's like, I really like this person, but they're not showing up. Like, they're not showing up what I need. It's like, well, you have to remember, relating with other humans isn't it just about how they serve your needs? It's a partnership. And so again, things that aren't really partnerships, things that aren't actually counterparts, things that aren't actually like, those are the things at this time, the Sagittarius New Moon, it's not even a discussion. It's just clear awareness. Like, it's just like the curtain falls and it's just like the clear awareness that it's like, well, this doesn't endure because this is or isn't the actual counterpart of that. So I just see a lot of feminines that also are going to be really maybe surprised and upset that, like, I think there's a lot of feminines that, like, for me, for example, like like there are people that I know, like, I'm just very conscious. Like, I've been on like a journey, right? So I'm like meeting a lot of new people. They're at a lot of different phases in life, right? And in terms of just coming to Atlanta. So I'm meeting all these new individuals completely, because I'm not from here. So my husband's from town, so he's like he's showing me the world, right? I'm showing myself the world, okay? But there's a lot of people that I'm like meeting and understanding, but if I'm coming from the intention of like, I'm trying to find and be open-minded to like who's really for me, and that's getting assembled, there's a lot of parts of me right now that are like, if I'm the bigger person, or I'm the more conscious person, or I know that this is a pattern, this isn't actually like malicious, this isn't actually like this or that, I can do and supplement and just be strong in my mind and spirit, and not just tolerate, but hold the space. You know what I mean? And I think I've been doing that really beautifully. And I think those feminines in you would be really celebrated for the ways that it's like you didn't just continue to try to separate. You tried to really understand this, like, we can't separate. Like, even if I want to walk away from this conversation right now, it's like I don't want to do it. It's like we aren't actually able to like disconnect. And so when we finally, if you were someone who really understood that, you understand now that like death is not a one-time thing. Like, I think this is just like, these are people who want, like, I think there's a lot of feminines too, especially if you're in the karmic feminine frequency within you, where it's like somebody wanted to like just kill something off. Like, somebody's like, it could be like, I really want this 2 of Cups. It's like, this is like a irrational fear. It's like, I really want this partnership, but actually I just want it to die, because I don't even want to talk about what it's going to feel like if I'm not capable of having it. So it's just like, these are people who want things to like die, and they don't die. Like, they don't die. It's like very much continues to return. This is also definitely Sag New Moon, another huge channel download. It's like, if something's for you, it can't die. Like, you might have been like, I'm good, I'm in a new cycle, and it's like, that thing was actually on your path. And even if they couldn't get it together, because again, it could be a human that's doing these things and they have any type of whatever, but it can't like be extinguished. You know, that's one of the things that I really learned, like the resurrendering, and even just moving back to Atlanta was like, you know, through the growth of the cycle of the last decade with my husband, it's like been a lot of like figuring out like what's the best movement forward in terms of like the relationship he has with his family. But it's like one of the biggest things that I feel like we have matured in and have seen is that like, it doesn't matter. You are more than capable to create whatever you need to, but disconnection, like just being like, these people hurt me so bad and I just want to disconnect, isn't an option, because it's not possible. If we came from another, if you created my life pouring from your cup and another motherfucker's cup, the parts are the parts, you know. And that's what I tried to tell my mom. I was like, you know, my mom, my dad, my brother, like all these people this year, I was like, yeah, but they wanted to believe in separate consciousness. Like, they weren't just saying to me, get out of my house. They weren't just saying to me, like, I'm sick of you, I hate you. That wasn't what they were just saying. It's when you say I hate you, or it's when you criticize, or when you want whatever, but you actually just like want some goal. And this is another thing where it's like, some people are trying to push the agenda that they want you to go, and it's not allowed. This is protected by the divine. So no matter how many times, like, because a lot of people don't want to take accountability for how they create, like, separation. Like how, for example, like, people never want to look at themselves as the people who, like, cut someone off, right? Like, nobody wants to be the person, like, I don't know, not me, but, like, a lot of people aren't really comfortable or can't really own when they are the ones who actually said, like, get away from me. So, you know, it's definitely that time, too, where, like, decisions that you've made in your life where you have to stand on, like, what you're saying, you know what I mean? Like, I tell my husband all the time, it's like, you know, at the end of the day, like, people can't, like, hide and play victim. Like, if someone makes you so mad that you do something or you remove them from your life, that's what you're doing. It doesn't matter how we want to spend that. That's, like, what you're doing. So, again, it's things like that where it's, like, also, though, if there was man-made efforts to try to, like, remove something, it couldn't be removed, and it looks like it comes back even bigger. You know, I want to also say, like, the theme, we're throwing Dennis a birthday party, and the theme is obviously, like, the prodigal son return, and the biggest theme for him is like, you can't kill the guy. You can't, because this prophecy was always, nobody could take him off track. Someone could take him and send him wherever, and he's going to go right back to where he's always belonged, and he's going to sprout where God needed him to be planted, and I'm going to make sure to support him to sprout beautifully. And that's exactly what's been happening since we've been back, because we make we don't tolerate the same individuals, like, always wanting to, you know, not see people be successful. Like, I don't know what's up with people always, like, wanting people to be fucking ugly and unsuccessful, but in either case, like, that's the most important thing. It's like, it's definitely that frequency of the Sagittarius Moon. It's like things that, like, you try to kill me again because I'm still here, you know, type of frequency. Sagittarius. Yeah. I do also feel like part of this wheel turning situation is like, so another PSA, if there's a crucifixion that you participated in, a witch hunt of sorts, if you energetically went to a town, if at any point in your life, you have gone to some sort of town congregational meeting where we're like, let's tar and feather. It's your turn to die. Whatever death magic you sent on someone else did not work because it transformed them and gave them the love of their life. Whatever death magic you sent for them to die in finite, it's looking like a lot of people are getting that. Sag New Moon. No shade. Because it has to do with this. It has to do with the time where you, like, beat somebody the fuck down. For what? With the attempts of trying to kill them. And this is where I'm saying it's the divine mother. This is the aspect of the universe that's actually the divine mother coming in to save to resurrect and transform and offer a giant partnership and love to whomever got wrongfully, like, slicey dicey, right? When people went to war with you and tried to kill you, and then only for the supernatural divine mother to come and be like, resurrect you, and then, like, level it up times a million. It's like, it was like the promise from God is like, every time they try to fight towards you, it's like your bag gets it bloats, the money bloats. And then, but the next thing is, I don't think the people are ready for the funeral. I don't think they're ready for that. Because again, I think too, people who go under this new moon, death processes, not even just like physically dying, but like people who go through like huge death processes at this time under the Sag new moon, I'm also seeing them being very public. But if that's what's going on, it's going to tell you, like I started this, it's going to tell you, so anything that happens to somebody karmically under this moon, anything that is happening to them, they created the world for, okay? So if you're seeing someone like, it's like, put it to rest, dude, like things are having an end for them, they're having a fallback, like it's like, you know, they're in the casket for real, just know that's what they sent to someone else. Like, I'm telling you, like, I went to work yesterday and I was just like paying attention to like what people were getting back from the world. And a lot of people don't know how karma works. They don't know. Most people wouldn't even know that, like, getting in trouble with their boss or getting in trouble with their friend or, having some bad luck on the road the next morning after they did somebody dirty the night before. Like, those things are connected. It's not because somebody sent you some obia. It's because, like, that's how karma works. If you are still living in your karma and not your dharma, the things that come to you do not elevate you. They don't rise you up. They sink you out, and you gotta do the work, right? The karmic debt that you made, you have to do the work to get yourself out of that. So I'm definitely seeing that with the new moon, because again, if you're in a high vibrational feminine frequency, the things that are for you, when something that's for you, Five of Swords, they have a wound. So it's really easy for you to see that. It takes a lot of strength, because I think a lot of women think of it as a punishment, right? Like the bearing the child or having the period, it's like, it's a punishment. But sometimes being the person who has the capacity, to take on like healing and whatnot, is because you're consciously aware enough to know that that's not who they are, because who they are matches me. There's parts of me, and I know when I was showing that behavior, it's because of the wounding. So like I said, I also feel the best part about it is like people are also able to get the rest they need. There's a big sense of this Sag new moon and this holiday season in general is about to put to rest whatever this crucifixion situation was in your history that was like God obviously like resurrected you and has you returning right back to the original ground that the coup d'etat tried to take you out from. It's going to get put to rest this Sag new moon, and it's amazing because you're going to come out on top. Because the way that the karma would work is that if someone has done something to you in your life in that way, they go into that position, and so you will finally be putting it to rest because it's actually just, again, this a lot of the last 2 months of the year were all about not even how you show up individually, it's how your behavior when you walk into a room is comparing to what else is also present. Again, I can look like a superstar right now at my job. And it also has a lot to do with like, you know, a lot of people keep coming up to me and I always thought it was bizarre. At first I was like, what is it? People must really like me. But it's like, people are like, Alexis, you just like try. Like you really try at work. And it's like something that like not a lot of people do. And I don't necessarily feel like I'm trying in certain ways. I'm like trying to learn the job. I'm trying to like keep my job, but I'm not necessarily like trying to be anything amongst other people. But I am getting a lot of the feedback that's like, no, you really do stand out just because of like what else is here, you know. And that's what I feel like. I feel like there's a huge, finally, your spirit can put to rest, because I feel like this Queen of Wands made sure that if this feminine frequency made sure if they're for you, again, I always tell you the divine feminine that is actually for you, she has the plan for your life. So this divine feminine saw this, knows this happened to you, and was like, baby, I got a long-term plan about how we're about to, because it can't go nowhere, because they use the laws of physics. They said if someone tries to kill you, if someone tries to put you off, if somebody tries to do whatever to you, if someone wants to ruin your reputation, if someone wants to spread lies about you, whatever it is, it's like a truly divine feminine is going to be aware of the ways in which it's again, we go back to Abigail, we go back to any spiritual things. Like you cannot destroy light and darkness. You can't destroy either of these poles. You can't destroy any pole. So you can't patriarchy can't actually get rid of women. You can't actually you can't do any of these things. So that's the way that we liberate. And so it would take a conscious feminine that's like, well, even if someone tries to kill you, if you need to look in your blue book, and if God doesn't want you dead by a certain age, if people want you to go out, if people want to ruin your reputation, if people want to say like, oh, this person's this and this and this, I'm telling you, they'll say anything about you. But if that's not what God says about you, a divine feminine is going to be able to say like, girl, can't none of that stick. And it's not, and the best thing that you, and it not only is it not going to stick, you have to believe that the universe is conspiring the instant that the nefarious action happens to bring you out, to support you, to give you what it is that you really need. So again, it's all of those things. Holy yeah. Yep, the return of the prodigal son. Because for the prodigal son, they were going to have to go down this dark and treacherous path. This path where these girls were going to crucify. Yeah, it was on the path. It's also on the path that we go past the crucifixion, though. Because, word to me, it was fictional. You could never... That's what I'm trying to say is like with Christ, the crucifixion was like fictional because the guy never died. Did it even happen? Or do these girls wish they could get a lick like that over him? Like, are they just, like, are we always perpetuating the bleeding man on the cross because the collective imagination really just wishes they could do that to the Messiah? It's like, because I believe the story is like, you're not going to be, no weapon formed against me shall prosper, brother. There's no martyrdom in my spirit. So, like I said, it could also be collective schizophrenia that y'all want to keep seeing this guy on the cross that you never saw. Because to me, what sounds more like the truth? Oh, he's out of the tomb. He's not there anymore. And he's like gorgeous in an immortal form. Maybe he was always in the immortal form and you girls made up the story. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It was a part of the path. The prodigal son returning. And that's why I said the Sag New Moon is ain't about it's not even about 2025. The putting to rest that's coming this Sag New Moon, that's some life shit. That's your soul is finally ready to put an entire story of, again, like you being offed, you being killed off by separate consciousness entities that want to stop your innate belief in unity consciousness. That's why you were threat number one, because you believe so deeply in how you're connected to the divine. You're going to be the first motherfucker to go for these guys. That's what it's looking like. So when the prodigal son returns, it's like it gives. That's what I mean. Blocked off and locked out. You know, and at this time, another big PSA, you've got to start getting really comfortable with your shadow and the divine feminine season, because your shadow will have you assert karma, like give back, like not even give back, but it's like, for example, like, you know, when taking space is required, right? If you're dealing with a toxic dynamics, like I need space from that. This is also the part where it's like you're lightening the weight of feeling like, oh, when I take space, I'm like such a bad. It's like you can free yourself to move on because you already did the action that balances it. Like if I'm dealing with someone who has like habitual like narcissistic tendencies or something, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna get anything out of this. They're about to just waste my time and energy having a conversation with me I don't want to have. Okay, if that's the case, the response or the reaction, the boundary that's set is actually your energetic response, so that you don't keep an exchange going. Because if we don't actually live out our shadow and allow ourselves to like in the exchange or complete or respond to the exchange, right? Because anybody can come up to you, do anything, you have no like awareness of that. But if we don't allow ourselves to like respond to that with whatever the appropriate boundary really is, again, this is where we destigmatize boundaries. Because again, when someone sets up a boundary with you, you're not being locked out. But this is how these low vibrational frequencies feel. That's what I'm trying to say. There is a lot of that because, again, prophecy unfolds at this time of the year, and a lot of motherfuckers just live their life is not actually on any real spectrum of divinity. There's no actual like God backing what they're doing, and that is very clear and evident at this time. But those are also the people that it's like when you put up a boundary, they're like, why do you lock me out? Why aren't you doing this? Why? It's like, I'm not doing anything. I'm actually just like assessing a boundary because you're wounded. The thing about this person is they're very focused on the fact that like someone has put up a wall to them, but they're not connecting the dots. It's like you're a risk to society. It's like you're not being not spoken to for no reason. It's because every time you're spoken to, you act in a certain way. And you just have to understand that people do like clock your behavior. So like if you're always screaming, always foaming at the mouth, always angry, always, it's like, I mean, if someone doesn't want to go through that experience, that's where they're going to put the boundaries. Like, well, I'm going to not do that. But again, this is the conversation, but it's playing out at the same time where, the divine also allows for the original story to be honored, the primordial story. So that would be the primordial story for all people, which has a lot to do with, what God designed you to do before, you got here and your parents messed up, or before you got here and you were raised in that horrible environment, or before you got here and you were denied because of the systemic oppression that we continue to uphold, your ability to move forward at different peak times when your guidance was really telling you to, internally. So it's like a lot of those aspects are coalescing at one time. And so that's what I mean when I say like this is the new moon of all new moons that like puts it to rest proper, because it's no more fearing this new beginning, no more like allowance of like, because anytime you are really trying to embrace the Fool archetype, right, which is the Aries, again, it goes back to the child, it goes back to the beginning of your life, it goes back to all of those things. But anytime that you're embracing the Fool archetype and there is an association of like some sort of painful frequency when you're trying to begin again, it's a great time to go back and look at your boundaries, because when you know in your spirit you're at a new beginning and you're at an egg sort of conceptualizing space, a lot of times the thing is not having strong boundaries to protect your new beginning. It's like bowling without bumpers when you're like, everybody wants you to get a strike on this or whatever, right? Okay. But it's like not protecting that new beginning with the proper strong enough boundaries can also be the reason why because me and Dennis deal with that. It's like sometimes like I think all we learned from probably like December and November and like I said, the end of October was like just about like, oh, the new beginning is like, it's happening. We don't have a problem with the timing of like the unfolding of our new beginning in our new life in the new world. I think the thing that we realize is like that does come with a like shit ton of like boundaries that really need to be in place so that this can be birthed into the channel that it is. Because a lot of times whenever we feel the negativity and you're starting something new, you haven't even started any karma or data yet, it would just mean that there's somewhere an energetic leakage somewhere, whether that's someone you're connected to that you're allowing to like project whatever their experience is or whatever their negativity is on like a new start. So it's just like individuation at this time, really being comfortable in the throat chakra. This is what I said, it's like Queen of Wands, Queen of Swords. It's like you really have to be able to be comfortable expressing your every aspect of things, light and dark, in terms of boundaries, in terms of also how capable you are. Like I said, it's also the year where you should have definitely shook off, like, if people aren't as intelligent as you, like, sorry, like because you can't, your life isn't just like about one person, but also like the intellect and the education that people go out and pursue has everything to do with making them smarter people, like making yourself a more capable individual. It actually doesn't even have anything to do with jobs or capitalism. Like people go to school because they want to enrich their lives. And so one of the things that I was dealing with a lot this year specifically that, I really in one-on-ones with clients and stuff, is like, really understanding this, like, there's no shame and guilt. Like, it's like people are where they are, and there doesn't even have to be a correlation to you. But again, it is a sign of low intelligence if you're stuck in the second dimension where it's like, what they have is what I have. Because that's why you always feel like as soon as someone gets something shiny and new, you become the frequencies like envy, jealousy, those types of things naturally populate around that vibration, because you are operating from a place where you have not given yourself enough, and therefore you don't feel like there's enough to go around. So these are the things that, again, that we want to remove the fears that are coming with the new beginning. I think that's what the Sag New Moon, if you can, like I said, this message is really helpful. It's helpful for me, but it's like part of the laying low for the next 4 days and like really getting clear on like your new beginning is not messed up. It's probably got to do with like any and everything that's associated that still needs a re-up in terms of like establishing strong senses of boundaries. Okay, and the last thing is the Three of Wands. It's beautiful. Yeah, I think the Sag New Moon is also going to heal our ability to like, with expectations, right? Like it's going to heal your ability to like, there should be to a certain extent where it's like, if you've built and got everything prepared for the path you wish to walk, and you've built the port and you've built the infrastructure, Sag New Moon's like, okay, this was the easiest part. This is what I kind of told you guys. I kind of give a masterclass on like CEO building from a Gen Z perspective and entrepreneurship from that sort of perspective. One of the things I think that might be really helpful for someone who's like Gen Z or younger as they create their business infrastructure is to really understand that we're going to have different tools and resources as it pertains to like not just like the list of priorities in terms of like what do we start with first. I think it's going to be a very uniquely Gen Z thing to do things like the money that the business makes can be the last thing we worry about, but that's an intellectual understanding, because the currency of money is exactly that it's an energetic flow, of which control is not really something you have. It's all receptivity, right? It's all about blockages. Money just flows. So it's like, as long as you don't have blockages, right? So from a Gen Z entrepreneurial like mindset in terms of like, how am I going to build out 100-year business? It's like something that might be really important is like, okay, worry last about the customer, worry last like who that is and what that is, worry last about virality or even acknowledging the algorithm, worry very last about like again, revenue and things like that, because those are usually the things that we have the least amount of control in their especially like over time. Like I said, like you could be Hailey Bieber, and yeah, it could have been for 5 years in the 2020s, like her cosmetic brand was like really great. But she's gonna have to keep that. These are things people have to like grow with, and so there could be seasons where like it's not that. So again, these are the reasons why it's like when we're talking about building out the structure of something, you might be doing exactly what we're doing now, because I feel like the Sag New Moon is bringing all the stuff that I think like you could have been in resistance all year and being like, no, God, I know what's best. I know that we need to focus on like really getting people to sponsor me. It's like, girl, like for me, the sponsorship is the easiest part. The best thing for me to do though was to keep realizing, like, just keep imagining like what would make, these deep pockets really invest. Probably just more transparency, more likability, more alignment, more radical honesty versus like, being really, to me, honestly, just being ambiguous, like honestly being ambiguous with my morals and beliefs has never gotten me anywhere, because if I really want to sharply believe, because there's people with deep pockets of every vibration, no question, but you also want to make sure that it's like, again, I'm really putting forward things like alignment really matters to me. So even if I was at different points, like really trying to worry about the things that I knew were coming and then maybe I couldn't control the speed of, it was great that I was still in a surrender enough to actually do the full body of work. Because again, Sag New Moon, you could have, if you actually listen to God from January to now, about every step that you were supposed to take, which I documented here. I was like, I'm going to try this. All 2025 is the year where I literally just trust God. And it has paid off in ways that I cannot even explain, because it has nothing to do with what I possess. It's about my connection to myself. And my fear has eradicated. My mental space has completely quieted. My spirit is really, truly come to a place where it's like people that I really like in my younger years considered enemies to me, I can live amongst, I can be amongst people that I have completely different beliefs from, I can completely be around, and those are all things that I feel like a deep rapport with the Most High can afford you. You're going to look your best. You're going to feel your best. You're going to have skills that you've never seen. Like I said, I wasn't always amazing at cooking. I did not used to do my hair for 20 something years of my life. I didn't do my own hair. I didn't know how to cut men's hair. I didn't know how to do, I really didn't know how to do a lot of the things that current 28-year-old Alexis, like, it's, people might look at me and be like, oh, the way that you like cook, or the way that you dress, or the way that you do this and this and that must have been something, the way that it like stands out now is like very distinguished. So it kind of looks like, oh, you must have been someone who's always been into the cooking. It's like, actually, no, it's actually not really, not particularly. And so those are the kinds of like turnarounds that I think are really possible at this time under this new moon. Just because, like I said, you would have really spent, and you get so much out of letting source dictate every move, especially, and I know it seems really radical, but when it comes to like ascending in the collapse, I would say it's the best route to take. It's very extremist. You might literally be like, you can't be scared enough to like live in your car, or live, not have food or not have water and not know what's coming next. You can't be scared of that. Because you do have to know it's like you're ejecting from somewhere into a newer internal paradigm. So it's like, whatever. But it truly has been one of the most positive things, because I can really just listen now. And I also don't really feel the need to participate. Like, I don't really care anymore. Like, the best thing about my life is that, like, when I realized that people were not going to commit to their own growth and evolution, like, I can't be more committed to you being healthy and well-balanced than you are. So once I get around people that I was like, okay, well, this is very obvious. This person doesn't care about being like healthy mind, body, and spirit. So I'm not going to care more. And that has just like changed the game, because I don't waste my time on conversations that won't go anywhere. Because remember, we only enter into any type of contractual agreement with someone consensually. Like, even if we're just having a conversation, you only enter into those spaces if you want to. Like, and for 90% of the time, when I realized, like, I don't even want to be talking to these people, so I don't really have anything to say. You know what I mean? I don't have a problem. I'm living my life, So again, those are the types of headaches and hellholes that you really get to move over, not because of spiritual bypassing, but because you actually don't have a heavy heart, because you actually don't, your life would, once you really realize how much God is asking of you in every moment to do, God is expecting the excellent version of you, not the mediocre part. And that's one of the things that's like, with my husband, one of the things I think he really fell in love with about me is like, I was really raised by a family of people that didn't just say you need to be exceptional. They were exceptional. They went and did things that were impressive. Both of my parents, I very much respect the lifestyle that they went out and fought hard for. There was nothing easy about being Black men and women in this country. My dad's a boomer, born in 1957. Both of my parents went to like their schools were newly desegregated, like all of these things, like, right? So, and even they really showed me and my brother that it's like you can't rest on your laurels. And they didn't just say that, they really like show up that way. And they built these lives that they're very different than me. They're individuals. But like I said, one of the things that's really important to value is like that sense of, truly expecting to keep working, on yourself, like to keep moving forward. Like there's just no stalling out. And so I do feel like really like, having a relationship with God is like, you really realize it's like, it can get really narcissistic when people think they've arrived. Like a lot of people think they've mastered things, or they think that they're good, but it's like, it doesn't even matter. You could be Jeff Bezos, a Fortune 500 company owner. You could be billionaire status, and there's so much to keep doing. In fact, anyone who's gotten to an exploitative place in terms of billionaire status is just like constantly working on changing and evolving and being next. You don't get premier innovation. You don't get modern technology without like constantly changing things. And so I think Sagittarius really teaches us to continue to stay hungry for knowledge, but also like you do, again, there's something about Sagittarius frequencies, like you don't just get sexy overnight. You're not just like attractive out of nowhere. It's not just luck. Like a lot of people have to work really hard to have positive energy, to be a positive, like to look positive, to feel positive in themselves. It's not just like, something that like just comes out of nowhere. So it's like, those are things that I was really raised on. That's something that I feel like my family really supported me and my husband when we were in our early 20s with, was just like really just building us up to be like, yeah, like go keep changing. Like don't ever think that you're just like enough, and definitely don't get locked into, because that's what Sagittarius is all about. It's like Sagittarius season is like, amend your routines, make changes, like, like not everything is always, because it's not going to be the same cycle for your entire life. Like capitalism can lie to you in a million ways. It is not a good thing for your world to never like change. The world is always changing. So you don't want to get out of touch with like the realities of life. And I think that's where a lot of fear-based behaviors and programmings and patterning can really continue to stem, is when we aren't, again, having that awareness that it's like super, super, super important to like keep up with the world. And the world has evolved so much, and that's why a lot of people get left behind, because you don't understand why people are talking the way they are or why people do the things they do, but it's like it's a sign of the times, it's a sign of the globe. So those are the things that I feel like the end of this reading really like expresses, which is like, you've built yourself and you put yourself on a path. You have no reason under the Sagittarius New Moon to not expect that those last things on the priority list that you didn't have to get to are going to walk right up to you and be assembled in almost like the perfect right time. It's like, well, good thing is like, I really want to build the studio that I'm building. It's a good thing my husband really wants to build his label, because it's like the last thing that we need to worry about is like, who's going to spend the Amex? That's like the easiest part of all of this. It's like someone buying the art. But again, you have to make something worth that consumer buying. You have to be a person that people actually like in order for your business to be successful. That's like, those are all parts of it, and those are things that, I think the entrepreneur journey that I give guidance for here is very similarly tied to my spiritual walk. It's very similarly tied to just like the offerings that I have for like also just artists, not just like entrepreneurs, but like the art world. And I do, uniquely bring all of those together, but I always want to give us an overview. Like, these are the most important things across any industry, across any personal relationship with yourself, that can really support you to not get dragged every like year after year by like the climate and the energy and what gets put on your plate. I think we can all agree in 365 days, so much can happen. And I just, Year of the Horse is definitely going to drag a lot of people, because most people are like, I'm not even just saying like they're not their best self. They're like, if you're in your like worst self right now, this 2026 is going to kick your ass, because you have to have horsepower. This is like God doesn't even care anymore. It's like, you have to be able to like sprint a 200-meter mile. Like, that's how in shape spiritually, mentally, and physically you need to be to keep living in the way that the world is going, because it's only getting heavier as things collapse. So if you save your health and well-being, if you take care of yourself last, and you're in a world where you're going to have a bunch of unprecedented things happening, you're not going to be equipped to, not only you're not going to be equipped to handle that, I do just feel like it's going to cause more trauma. And again, if you've already waited your whole life to deal with your problems, then this next year is about to give you a bunch of unexpected problems that don't actually even have to do with anything you've done. They have to do with like systems crashing. And so, that's why 2025 was a great year to not just take the breakdowns and like throw a fit about it. Take the breakdowns and be like, this is extremely healthy for me to learn how to deal with conflict resolution, not the conflict, the resolution. How are we solving the problem? Because a lot of people they don't have any ability, they have no concept of how to solve a problem. They only know how to just exacerbate the problem, and the funny thing about 2025 is like, all of the things that a lot of people think are like super big problems aren't actually really problems. And all they were really doing all year was purging their fears. That's like what the Year of the Snake is about. And so most of that was coming up all year, a lot of people are like, oh, this was wrong, this was wrong, this was wrong, this was wrong. And that was like the totally wrong lens to take, because this year wasn't even about making it that difficult for any of us particularly. You were just dealing with the difficulties your own limited consciousness put on you. It wasn't like God went out of the way to make it like super hard for everybody this year. 2026, again, you're going from a snake to a horse. Not only is that speed astronomically different, the build of that animal is completely different. And again, the horse is expected to carry the heaviest weight. As a matter of fact, nobody even regards what a horse can actually pull when they're throwing the stagecoach together for the horse. Then nobody even cares how much. The idea with the way that a horse is treated from the human perspective is like, you're going to take whatever big old cowboy is going to sit on your back and you're going to run him up the mountain. So expect that from God in the coming year. Expect that from God with this new moon, where it's like, you're just going to be offloaded a heavy load. It's kind of like why I've been prepared. Me and Dennis have been preparing for opening our studio and opening the label, because we will have employees in 2026. It's going to go really fast. It's very shocking. Like, that's one of the things that I've been really doing. It's like a lot of people, like the peanut gallery is talking about me. It's like, I've already got, I don't know how many photographers in mind that I want to bring on to Tethered Studios for the spring. So, but it's a big responsibility, because it's like, it's not just me being a CEO now, like of just my own art empire. Like, now there are people who work for me, who want to work for me. So it's like, okay, that's a definitely horse level load in terms of the snake. The snake only has to deal with themselves. the horse is dealing with other responsibilities, and you have to be able to pull it fast, and you still gotta get things done. So all of that to say is like really the biggest thing about the Sagittarius New Moon is like it's the beginning of the get prepared, because I think you're gonna really see a dosage of like, oh wow, this is a lot on my own plate. And again, for a lot of people, like I said, you could be at any vibration, but again, if you're not used to carrying your own weight, the horse is gonna kick your ass, because you're not just the horse is never just carrying its weight. Like I said, horses are only known as companions. Like there's like wild horses, but most of the time people are still like functioning with horses. So again, could be a very, very hard, sobering ending, like stick a fork in it type of frequency, because I just think a lot of people might give up before they even realize that like the judgment is being sounded at this time at a cosmic level. And it's time to not just pull our own weight, but pull the weight of whatever it's like you're gonna be pulling the weight of whatever God has for you on your back. And it's the year of the horse is not like carrying heavy weight is a karmic. It's like that's not even a punishment. If you're getting a really heavy weight, it's because of how strong you are. That's like what the year of the horse would tell you. So, but just expect that everybody's getting a heavy weight, because again, when more things collapse, we're still holding space for like, I mean, we just talked about like even just Jamaica, like even just like over a month and a half ago, like, right? Like complete devastation, like once in a lifetime, you'll never see this type of devastation again. And, for a lot of people, it required, to just be a global citizen, it required putting more on your back or thinking or moving with more consciousness. I know those things wake me up. Every time I see a climate event, I really, really want to remind myself to go harder to remain plant-based. I really want to remind myself to reduce my carbon footprint. I really, really remind myself to go back to like walking and getting myself around without just completely relying on the exploitation of like transportation at the expense of like fossil fuels. Those are things that are really important, because that's a way to show that you care about people across the globe that you'll never meet. You don't need to meet, but you show with your lifestyle that you consider other human beings' lives. You don't just like wake up and just like serve yourself. You have to like realize that it's like some of the things that I do don't really even, it's not because I have to do them that I'm vegan. I do it because I care about reducing cruelty on the planet. Yeah, obviously I could stuff my face with chicken wings. That's fine, I guess. But not only does that harm my own body, but it's also just it's like senseless murder, because nobody who eats meat really thinks very sacredly about the meat they're eating. Usually they're coming from consumerism. Usually they're trying to satiate their appetite. All I'm saying is there's a million ways for each of us to play our part and to carry some weight that's not just our own. Now, if you're at that place where you spent all 2025 making excuses for even carrying your own weight, that's going to really be a struggle. I can't even, the way that the cards come out, it's like, it's not going to be good, because there is no one there. The divine weight that will be reshuffled around in the year of the horse is going to be things that are collectively based, but it's not like doing things for other people. It's not just like clearing someone else's karma. There's nobody else's karma to clear. You know what I mean? So that's why even when we talk about relief efforts and stuff, it's not about anyone who is aligned to these things not being an alignment to them, or like being like, oh, you should, no one's like just a victim of inherently. Even when we are, like I said, there's so many events that you've seen me go through, even my own rape, right? Like those are karmic things that are on my soul that I have to be paid back for whatever I have done in my own past lives. So again, it may not have made sense for me to be a child coming into this world dealing with that experience, but I do understand that like maybe I can have perspective about like in the past, like did I struggle with my own sexual boundaries towards others in past lives or in other times where my energy was like learning about itself. So, these are the things that are the most important, I would say, to think about in the next 4 days. I definitely don't think you need to like remix the beat. The next 4 days are going to be, it's a lot of receiving, all right? Ace of Pentacles is like a lot of what you put out comes right back to you. In terms of like, this is beautiful. Oh my God, this is so crazy. This is so queen down. It's like, Queen of Cups, it's like, it's huge. It's huge, it's huge, it's huge, it's huge. The Wheel of Fortune. And again, your fortune, whether you're going up on the wheel or down on the wheel in terms of your personal cycle, I'm just giving you the general overview. It's all connected to the health of your feminine, because this is definitely, feminine season definitely honors that. Like I said, we do summer proper at the studio, but we also, like, I'm a winter baby, my husband's a winter baby. We love divine feminine season, and that's who would be honored again. And it goes back to your relationship and rapport internally with your own divine feminine. there are so many people that are ready to walk the path because they see this Queen of Swords as the Empress. They like, I'm really seeing it. It's like, I'm really super excited because, like I said, you guys saw me and the karma, like I said, you know, it's unfortunate, but the people that wanted Tethered Studios to like not be a thing the most were like my 3 family members specifically. And, you know, so that's a great example of how like people really didn't like really tried to make it really hard for me to run a studio this year. And that's just like ugly karma, one, because I kept reiterating to them, I was like, well, I wish I could be any more transparent about how like this isn't even like, there are plenty of art projects that I've just wanted to do, but like Tethered Studios is definitely not that. Tethered Studios is definitely me finishing my dad's family business, and so it's definitely not something that was up for like debate whether or not it would exist. And so because my broadcast, my media conglomerate is real, and it's actually something God asked me to push myself to build, because even what I do here is not what I would have been. It's not comfortable. It stretches me and it grows me, and it's difficult. And, you know, I had to go learn a lot. I had to learn and increase my body of knowledge on a lot of subjects across all aspects of metaphysics, science, the esoteric realms, you know, in terms of spirituality. I've had to study, I don't know how many religions, just to be able to make sure that I don't cut off anyone from the unity consciousness rhetoric that we have and we need to be administering. So it took a lot of that, but this is exactly that. This would be like, for me under the new moon, for example, like I have a company party on the new moon. I can't think of a better thing to do. But again, one of the reasons I'm at my company right now is like, I'm really looking for photographers who want to be a part of a studio, but not in a 40-hour-a-week structure, just salaried to just help us build the studio and be independent agents, right? And so when I'm ready to offer that opportunity to people, you know, it would definitely be exactly in alignment with this. Like, I spent all of 2025 having people really try to sabotage my business. Didn't work out because we just kept building the business, because the business didn't come from them. The business came from God. So there was always next steps for me. I've always had, I can't even tell you how many opportunities I had. 2025 ended up being like the best year of my life in such a crazy, funny, weird way. And so, but the thing about that is like, for it to continue to sprout up now in another state after I was exiled from my last state to come back here, and immediately it pops up. It's like exactly what Spirit said. It's like, it's like they sent death for you, and it's like 2 cups still standing, and then like the new moon would definitely like put it to rest. Like whatever, you know, I'll never forget this year, my mom, and I was just like, you know, talking to her about how I'm a director, and she was like, okay, but when you keep talking about movies, is that aspirational? Or is that like actually something you do? And I was like, that's crazy, because you were the first person to put me in a film camp. When I was, first movie I ever made is on VHS. And she put me in it, you know. I was like, I've been making movies since 2004. It's been making movies since then, you know. And so it really, you know, those kinds of things really hurt me, because, you know, it's not even about like, oh, that hurt me because your opinion of like, is my mom a cinephile? Does she know anything about it? No, that's not why it hurt. It didn't hurt me because it's like, oh, your movies are bad, you know. But it hurts me because it's like, you know, people are really fixing their selves to like hate on something divine. And that's another big thing about the Sagittarius New Moon, is like people who hate God. I mean, that's also very much prevalent, because it's the people who always are acting demonic. It's like there's never a joyful noise coming from their mouth. It's always, you know, darkness, confusion. Again, because when we talk about serving the devil or serving the author of confusion, how do you get confused? You're always so confused because you lied too much. You have to tell the truth in order to not be confused about what's going on. You know, so a lot of people lie every damn day about who they are, about what they do, about how accountable they are, all of it, you know. And, you know, they also don't want to tell you that they serve the devil, but that's exactly what they serve. They'll sit up there and smile in your face and say they love God and Jesus down. That don't mean nothing. That don't mean nothing. It doesn't mean nothing. Because if you can't speak from the vibration of truth and clarity, that means you're trying to set out more confusion on this planet. And that's against God, because God don't want nobody to be confused about what's going on here. It's very clear, you know. And so those are just like very big things that I think Sagittarius kind of is like very ruthless. Like, you know, everybody knows of us. It's like top tier fire. It's like we've mastered creative abilities. So, you know, that's what I'm saying. It looks like someone had to get exiled, and it didn't even matter because you just went and got the 2 cups. I gave you the 10 cups. It's like, it didn't matter what death magic was sent over something that was meant and propped up by God. It doesn't matter what someone sends, because it'll send you on a dark night that you were always meant to go through. but you'll come right back. It's like my husband coming back to Atlanta. Like, okay, well, obviously what's clear is that he should have never been taken away from here in the first place. But now it's like when we come back and it's like his return is huge. He is the most decorated like musician I know. And one of the things that's the most important about that is that like, these were things that even when he was sent away from here, from his hometown, he lost everything. He lost his friends, everything overnight. And it was completely traumatic because none of us have ever had to go through that. Whereas like people take everything away from you. I don't feel like that's very deserved, but okay, and in the end, he comes back and he has it all. He's the only one, in my opinion, that I've seen that has like, Dennis is the only person that people go up to and is like, you truly have it all. We can tell that the person that you are married to is like your dream. It's her dream. It's dream-like. You guys look like soulmates. You act like soulmates. You remind us of real love. I can't think of a better plot twist. I can't think of a better karmic justice rebalancing than that. I can't, and he had such a huge comeback, and I'm just so proud of the guy that even the ops they don't even understand that he's just, it's just incredible. It's just really an incredible frequency. So it's beautiful. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. You already know. And that's what I'm saying. This queen, this is all queen. All the queens are everywhere. But the right woman knew what she was doing. She knew what she was offering. This is like me. I'm getting so much clarity right now. It's like why I'm going up to people like talking about like, yeah, I'm opening in the spring and I want to offer jobs and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, cause you already knew that. And I think again, the parts were like, the things that weren't put to rest were like just it's like the last bit of the mental psyche that's being pretty much just like purged up and out. And the most important part of that, the most important reason for that is actually because of, again, we need to have this opportunity to finally release, and this be the final release of whatever warring tactics people tried to put, however people tried to like cut you down or make you feel like inferior or whatever, that gets put to rest on the 21st because it's so minute, it's so small. At this point, you're already living in the resurrection. You've already embarrassed these people because their efforts were unsuccessful. Whatever they sent for you was unsuccessful. However they wanted to ruin your reputation or smear your name or whatever, it's like unsuccessful. Exactly. It's unsuccessful. But it's unsuccessful in like your embodiment. It's not like even like plot failed. Like, no, it's like unsuccessful because you're still alive. Matter of fact, you're doing better than these people. You're still shining. You're still healthy and happy. So this is such a good time because Sagittarius does such a good job with like negativity and just like being able to be like, dude, you're only negative because you don't like yourself. I mean, there's nothing else to say about that. That's like the biggest PSA I could give for this. I'm so glad I also got an hour 30 out. Oh my God. This weekend is so foundational. It's going to help everyone. Like I said, even the people that are for you, we're all going through mirrored things. I'm purging up my deepest fears, as is everyone else on this planet. But even the people that are for you, their deepest fears probably mirror yours, like, in the same way. But just trust that, like, you're going through this, like, Bordeaux, this 4-day process, this you're staying still in the trap. But it's because when they rise out of, once they get clarity and they're like, okay, I know it's just that. I know. And the way to keep doing that is to keep showing up in this positive, feminine, magnetic, attractive experience. It's like the only way that I can solve some of the ways that people are really confused about me is like just keep showing up consistently. My family was very confused about me this year because of like the stuff that they were going through personally. It really didn't have anything to do with me. Unfortunately, like, yeah, also I'm like one of the people that makes my family members feel the safest. So like my mom is closest to me out of like the 4 Taylors. My brother is closest to me out of the 4 Taylors, and so is my dad. Like I'm the person that they're each closest to. And so typically that also means I'm usually the closest to them too, is because I actually like really unconditionally love them very well. And I think one of the things, my family is very much like 4 individuals, like 4 very different people, and we are all stars, but very different avenues. And so it's kind of hard sometimes for us to also have capacity for other people or like for each other, because we all do this, we all play the exact same role, but we do very different things. So, when we're talking about Sherman's world, it's like I'm usually the only person that has capacity to like indulge Sherman deeply. Or like when I'm talking about my mom's world and her life as a director, or my dad as like a, seer, minister, prophet, so for me, I think even with that, it's like the guidance from God is like, it will all settle. All of the sand will settle to the bottom and it will clear the water. And, so even people that are for me, like I can expect this December because I moved on the premonition. I extended this cup and this wheel to whoever was for me, not to like things that I just wanted to be the truth. And then all I had to get strong enough all year was like just holding my heart frequency and knowing that that's what I did. I did the right thing. That's exactly what I was supposed to do. And just let the rest settle. Like let people like really realize like, oh, okay, yeah, this isn't like anything other than just like, separate, pretty much compartmentalizing like where things are coming from. So when you give people time to like let source reveal itself through you, through your consistency, through your loyalty, through the ways that you continue to keep yourself on a regimen, you can ensure that it's gonna be Nine of Cups. It's gonna be nothing but good things, you know. That's what I told my husband. It's like, well, at the end of the day, like, you know, my husband is always ever only, he also like, you know, I really fight and advocate for him because it's so important for people to also like recognize when young men, specifically at this point in human evolution, genuinely don't have ill will towards people. Like, one thing that I will say, that I would say in a vow on in front of everyone about what is one of my favorite aspects of who my husband is as an individual is like, the guy doesn't have any enemies. He is never doing a single thing to harm anyone. He doesn't operate that way. He doesn't think about going out of his way to make someone feel insecure, making them feel upset, he's the most loving and genuinely kind person I've ever met. And a lot of that comes with the ways that he just really, everything that he does is really motivated by self, like Aries rising. So like anything that you see in him, he like literally is doing because of him. Like he cares about himself that much. He's like very much that individual. And so one of the things that I love about his healing journey and like where he's at and the empowerment that he's seeing and just like how much he's truly taking over the world at this time is that he has really, against all odds, never changed. That's who he was from the start, and he didn't let anything color him or really like, no matter how many times people like test him and try to bring him back into like just really dark negativity, he will never start that. He will never mirror that. He will never respond fire with fire. And to me, that is really extremely hard to do for young men, young brown men who are dealing with a plethora of their own experiences in terms of what's passed down genetically and, you know, the experiences of just different demographics across this planet. And so, again, I'm very proud of him, but I'm also proud of anyone who is doing that because it's thankless work. It's not seen, that you don't change who you are no matter how many times someone reveals who they are to you. And you don't feel the need to match that. You obviously can protect yourself. You obviously can set your boundaries in place. But in terms of like becoming the person who's like, well, now I'm going to start fights with whoever I want to start fights with on a Monday or whatever, you know, you don't choose that. And that is something that I feel like I didn't have a lot of answers at 20 years old when I met him. I really just was like in love with him type of thing. But as I've gotten older, the only thing that I hold a lot of love for 20-year-old Alexis over is that she was just so encouraging and saying like, I don't want you to ever lose. Because he rebels in a really beautiful way. He just doesn't conform. And that's why we really meet in minds. Because people might think that, like, I'm maybe more contrarian. But he's very much, like, understands that rebellious nature by just not conforming into a worse version of himself. Like, my husband just, like, really will never become, like, worse off. He will never become, like, someone who isn't proud to stand in, like, who he is and what he does. You know, and he doesn't want to go backwards. And I love him, and I'm just feeling very proud of him this year and this December. I'm doing so much, history and archiving because we're gonna we lose these moments like this hour and 37 minutes. Like, I'm doing work right now, and it's like crazy, and I get so emotional because I really love what I do, and I love archiving history, and I love having discussions with myself about what's going on right now. Because as a child, definitely something that I did a lot, but I wish I could have done more, not out of self-preservation, but just to be curious about opening up the dialogue with my creator and talking about it, And I was like really thinking about for myself, like the mothering archetype, and like, that's something I'm very like newly walking into and trying to like understand, being a nurturer and, building life, right? And not just in children, I'm talking about just like the concept of like divine mothering. And it's like one of those huge things where it's like, I think the best thing about my archive and the best thing that I do here that you walk away with is you may not actually have to agree with anything, but I think I speak in such a proficiency that it's like you immediately know we're talking about unity. You immediately don't listen to what I'm saying and want to be on the opposite side of what I'm saying, because I'm not here to attack you. There's none of that in the rhetoric. There's nothing here that's at anyone. These are just the things that like I've been asked to do, and that had like implications. Like if I don't listen to this guidance, something can happen to me. Less protection, less safety, less blessings, less abundance, whatever it is. And you know, so it's been such a great journey to just get to have moments where I feel like, you know, I feel like, what is it, December 18th, December 19th, like I feel like it's a special existence, it's a special day. And I think me and my husband always live that way, and we always try to make sure that not just like, oh, go on a date, no, like we need the whole 24 hours to be sacred and amazing. And because we're just so into life, and I feel like we're getting to that place, and I love this time of year. December is like gotta be my #1 favorite month. I mean, if we're just talking about a month, like it's like my favorite month. It 100% is, because I'm an Aquarius, so it's like so much of me wants like group participation, and like you can't. There's very few months where people come together the whole month on, you know, February's top tier, but it's like not really always like the whole month is like one way or whatever, you know. So it's so beautiful. But yeah, the return of the prodigal son, I think it's like, it's all working out. I think this weekend is so needed. I definitely, like I said, before you think about, I also would just say this, before you think about what the first step is or what the next immediate step is, pause. Because I think you might think the next thing on your, like you might be just like going down a linear list and it's more circular, but everything that's on the circle is coming back through magnetized things. So you also don't need to like do anything. And like, in fact, I would like challenge you to like see what non-doing and more so just like only pouring into yourself and like the things that you know you need could really do for you. Because once you do that, I think you'll really see. Right. Yep. It's so beautiful. Let me see. There's nothing that I haven't already said. I'm so glad to get out a proper long message right now. Yeah. Oh, it's like 5 of swords, 5 of swords, 6 of cups, you know, a lot of that, like I said, where it's like, in the end, you really do know that, like, if you cut something that's for you off, you paid the karma for it, and it springs right back to life because it's for you. And you went on a self-love journey from it. If you cut something that did need to be cut, it's because you have a lot of clarity about what is the 6 of cups. It is what is for you. So there's cuts happening all across the board right now, because it's time for divine love to really sprout again. And so when certain things get 5 of swords, which is a win-lose, I just think that you should expect that Sagittarius New Moon, like for me, like I'm kind of in my recruitment era. I'm like trying to see like who's really like, who would be down with the vision, like who would trust me as a boss more than like anything, you know what I mean? Like who would really like sit with this. And I think that's like what I've done is like, I want really like people to like really trust like how long I've been doing certain things. And a lot of this, yeah, because like you can offer somebody money and doesn't mean it's gonna be a good job for them, right? Like you could offer someone like a salary to do an opportunity, it could be like whatever. So I'm just learning that like I'm slowly like but surely like recruiting all of the people, places, and things that I like really want to be a part of what I'm doing. And I think that Sag New Moon is really going to show, it's going to be that time where people are like, yup, see ya, I'll leave this and go to you. I'll leave that which is not for me or misaligned, and I'll go do that. Or vice versa, you know, you could be someone who's getting the awareness that it's like, oop, I cut the wrong thing and that didn't work out for me. But in the end, if I cut the wrong thing, I'm going to have to course correct, pay the karma, remove the incorrect thing and try again. So that is our Sagittarius New Moon message. 1 hour and 42 minutes. I'm so happy to finish this work. And then, yeah, I'm really grateful to all of you. Yeah, I have no other notes other than that, but we'll get this uploaded just because I really want to try to get it up tonight if possible, so that you guys can have this for your weekend and sort of play this back and just, you know, I like to, at this point, like I said, holy cow, it's more just about holding you in a yummy frequency. It's more about radical witnessing with the holy cow than it is about really anything else, you know. So then it is about telling you stuff that you don't know, or like, oh, you know, so I'm not keeping you like on the edge of the seat, like teaching you about stuff. It's more so just like, here's the energy that we're in. Here's how we can hold space and hold each other while we're on the boat together, you know, doing the thing. But yeah, again, happy winter solstice if I don't see you guys via video archive before then. Happy winter solstice, happy holidays, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, I mean, honestly, just like any fucking pagan, any holiday, Christmas, Merry Christmas, you know, to all. Just be so blessed. I have so much planned. There's so much coming from the studio. Like, I'm not gonna be quiet. I'm just letting you know, if I don't see you in chronological time before then, just know I wish you all of those wonderful things. I'm so excited for the Sag New Moon. I think great things are coming for all of us, okay? Bye, y'all. Love ya.